Hello, everybody. It's a big day. There's a lot to talk about. We begin with Memorial Day. Welcome, everybody. And I'd like to begin to talk about Memorial Day. We tend to make celebrations for the joy of it. But Memorial Day needs to be more than that. You know, my father wrote a book about his life because he said his parents never spoke. My mother wrote a book about her life because most of the people were killed in the Holocaust, and she wanted a memory of it. And Eric couldn't speak, but on the trips upstate or wherever we went that took distance, bit by bit he would begin to speak. And when we reached our destination, I would write it down. And so now I have a book of his life as well. And Memorial Day is supposed to be in memory of the people who died for us. How are we saying thank you? We're producing more wars, more hate, more people left homeless in the world with nobody willing to take them in. I would like us to do our memories of what we missed doing and to begin to repair our damage. I was trying to think of the end result of every one of the world wars. And then I went back and I started to think of skirmishes. How did we get America? The United States of America. We killed the people who lived here. The tribes, which we called Indians, so they were Native Americans. We gave them bottles of whiskey and jewelry of cheap beads and said we bought the land from them, but didn't allow them to stay. Let's change. Let's start thinking the heroes mostly did not volunteer. They were drafted. In the painting, I would just like you to show a tribe of people who didn't allow themselves to become killers. These are the Hoovers. We made Amos Hoover and his wife at that time. And they were Mennonites. And they wouldn't fight, they wouldn't kill, which meant they were the enemies of the country because they didn't go to war against others because they wouldn't kill. We're still close friends with the remnants of that family. But in my heart, I know it is possible for people to say, I will share, but I will not kill. And whatever I've been seeing, I could only come up with one name of somebody who created peace after he was unjustly imprisoned. He was imprisoned because of his color. He was black when America wanted to be a white nation only. And that's Nelson Mandela.
South Africa wanted to be a white nation only.
Yeah. Right. And then there's Mahatma Gandhi, who came from a family where he had privileges, but he marched against the British without weapons so that they could shoot him if they wanted to. There is a possibility of peace. Perhaps each one of you can stop whatever hate you carry. And what I learned was from Eric, my husband, who after concentration camp, after he was liberated, he couldn't be near people who hated. And we went out to dinner once with a couple where she kept insulting her husband. And on the way home, Eric said, I never want to see these people again. And I said, we can't. We already made a date. He said, break it. I cannot be near people anymore who hate others. Because hate is like an infection. If you're near it, it can come back. And he was afraid of getting the hate back. Let me now tell you my story. I'm prepared to paint. I cleaned my palette. I have fresh new paints in it. But I have to tell you that this painting is going to have to change. I knew how to do little faces. They were so tiny, but they looked exactly like the people. And the other day, I refused to accept that I'm old. I refuse to accept that I can't do what I did a year ago. And on the first bright sunny day, last week, I walked to Key Food, which I love doing. And I always feel so proud I can walk. I'm 94 and change, and I can walk. So I took my wagon, my four-wheeler, my rollator, and walked. In the middle of that time, suddenly it got very warm, and I ignored it because I'm terrific. I've always walked it. I'm going to do it. I didn't during the winter, but I'm doing it today. So I got to Key Food and I bought, because I had taken plastic bags with me, and I divided the food into two sides. This goes into this bag, this goes into that bag, and I hung them on the handles. And I walked. And I walked home. And it was very hot. And I stopped to rest very often because my rollator has a seat. And so I stopped at about every bush and felt very proud of myself. I couldn't wait to tell the family, even though I knew they would be upset because I had promised not to do anything foolish. Well, when I got home, we now have a ramp. When I got up the ramp, I was still okay. But when I tried to do the alarm, my fingers shook. And I'm used to occasionally my fingers shaking. So I knew that would stop. But it didn't stop. And the alarm was ringing because I couldn't put the code in. And the more I put the code in, and the more it kept ringing. the more nervous I got, and the more my hands shook. And I could not do the code. And the alarm kept ringing. Finally, I found out if I shut it off completely, it didn't stop. But if I left it alone and let it ring, sooner or later, the police would come. It finally stopped. I was able to control my fingers enough to put the code in. And the young, lovely policewoman came, and she said, "Don't worry about it. When we hear the alarm and we know you, we come." And I was able to go into my house and lie down and drink water and think. And here's what my thinking did. Hetty, you're old. You can't do certain things. First of all, you want to finish the painting. How can you with a hand going like this? This can happen any time. Accept it. And I thought of the painting. Eric wanted me to do this painting. A painting to say the only people in it are kind. And not only that, he said, "Hetty, you've got to do a painting when we're gone, when the world will only speak of what happened in our period of time, the Holocaust, slavery, World War I, World War II, with the remnants of and beginnings of a World III hanging around us. You've got to do a painting of truth, of who we also are. Not to deny who we are not, but to give a proof there's a reason for us to keep existing." And he said, "Make sure that everybody in that painting is real, and that you can say the one act of kindness that makes you want them in this painting." And I thought, with this shaky hand, how can I do it? Kenny, can you come around and photograph it? And let me tell you what I already changed. I decided, shall I hold it up, Kenny?
You show me where to go and I'll point there.
I want the whole thing.
Oh, I can do that. I don't know if holding it up will help.
Okay? I'll go like this.
Okay. Great.
Okay?
Yes.
And I began to change. I thought, I have so many little faces done, but the glory that I want to put into this painting isn't done yet. And that's going to be done when I paint larger surfaces. I'm going to leave the little faces the way they are, but I can change everybody's hair. And so I began. Right over here. The first one I began with was my friend Carol Schwartz. No, that's not Carol Schwartz. That's another name. I'm not going to give you names right now because I haven't finished changing. But instead of her hair, I did what she does when she first comes on a windy day. I'm going to have the hair covering most of her face. That's the beginning. I was going to do a symbol of somebody on this wagon, a symbol of the spirit of time, but then I would have to do a face. So I just began that today. It will definitely be a young black person, black or brown, because that's the great thing that's been happening during our time. When I first came to Oceanside, everybody was white. My children graduated from Oceanside High School. Everybody was white. They asked me to come and speak there, and I walked into that auditorium, and there was every color under the sun, every mixture. And I said, how did we do it? So this painting is going to be a how did we do it? And let us continue. And everybody you see here who is with a finished face is going to have the bodies made with beautiful colors as it is. And so every week you will see it differently. And let me just show you, this was my family when we left Vienna, when Hitler came and we escaped. Everybody said you've got to put your family in. But what I've done in all the paintings, if I've already done somebody, I do them from the back. Because with all of these, I still have faces. But I want to tell you, this painting is going to be glorious. But whoever has a face keeps their face. And whoever doesn't will have hair covering it. Okay. Are there any questions?
Well, there's a lot of comments,
I love that.
and I will read them. Sharon Adams says, "Hi, Hetty. It's Sharon from New Jersey." Paula Lakshan is watching. Greg is watching. Eddie is watching, and he said, "Happy Memorial Day, Hetty and Kenny." A few people mentioned that they're having a bit of a problem getting on. Dory says, "Happy birthday, Eddie Weedman." So happy birthday, Eddie. I mentioned Greg is watching. John Taracuso says, "Hi, Hetty. Hi, Ken. Hugs from California." Tracy Hepner is watching. Paula Lakshan is watching and says, "Hi, everybody. So lovely to see you." And Sharon Adams says, "All for Hetty. This is history." And Marcia Bart Isman is watching. Kathy says, "Hetty, you have told me so much about your Eric that I feel I know him. What a wonderful person." And Fran Rosenberg is watching. And Marcia Bard Isman says, "Hi, Hetty. Greetings from California." And Kathy says, "I always tell you, my Hetty, I never can see you as old. I only see your young spirit." Sharon Adams says, "Wow." Lori Patton says, "We cannot wait to have you back this week. More students will get to see you." Sharon Adams just holds the quote that you said. How did we do it? Tammy Smith says, I love that you added your family in Vienna. And I remember the story that you told about that photograph. Eileen Cutler says, the painting is outstanding, Hetty. And I just want to point out that Eileen has sent out about 1 million heart, like a person holding a heart with a hug. She's sent out 1 million of those in this talk. Now she's sending out just pure hearts. Sharon Adams says now, I'm rereading 4 letters you wrote me dated back to March 2006. Eddie Weedman says, I am so glad you made it home safely that day, Eddie. Dory says, happy birthday, Greg, too. It was Greg's birthday on the 23rd. Lots of hearts for that, too. And Mary Nix says, Hetty, I remember you and Eric fondly from the short time I worked at Follow Your Art in early 1991. I'm so very glad I found you again. Your smile has not changed. I wish more people could hear your loving and sensible messages. So that's 33 years ago she worked at Follow Your Art. And Greg says, thanks to everybody. Eileen is sending explosions of hearts and hugs and faces.
I need to say more.
Say more.
I need to say, when I was 8 years old, I wondered about everything. I have an answer. What I wondered about was, how could I make people stop being afraid? Because I was afraid. I never admitted to myself that I was afraid. And now, when we are allowing hostages to be taken as a normal part of life, I realized I have allowed myself to be hostage since I was 8 years old. What was I doing by allowing myself to be a hostage to the hate that people do to others? Because inside of me there's the knowledge that as long as people hate, I'm their hostage. The people I don't know in all the countries where children are taken away, I feel Kenny, I'm not going to give a name, but the lady to whom, the one right here, where I'm going to put hair to cover the face, because I never had done her face yet. But I once said to her, how do you know what you know? Because I see the way you help people and understand. And she says, it's because if somebody is hurting, I hurt in the same way, in the same place. And so I have to fix that part in them that's hurting. And I think sometimes maybe that's what we need to do. If I read that somebody is hurting, but it's far away, but there is somebody nearby who sooner or later is going to express hurt. Or if I can just say to them, to anybody, are you okay? Talk to me. Let's be our brothers and sisters' keepers, because it'll come back to us. Help me with it. I love you all. Bye-bye.
Oh, you have 2 more minutes. Let's see if anybody has any more comments.
Okay.
Lots of people are sending lots of hearts. And Dory says that that I should talk to you about empaths, that you would love to learn about empaths because you are an empath. And Sharon says, thank you for your time, Hetty. So special to see you. Any last words in closing?
See you next Monday.